Thank you. So welcome and thank you for being here today. It's the afternoon of the last day, so congratulations, you made it to the end. So yeah, my name is Davide Selletri and I work in Tigera, the big cat at the top of the screen, as a customer success engineer. Tigera is the creator and maintainer of Calico, which is the smaller cat at the bottom. Are you familiar with any of these companies or Calico? Calico, 1, 2, okay, someone, all right. So yeah, I'll talk about Calico comes in 3 flavors: open source, enterprise, Calico cloud. What we will see today is metrics related to Calico open source, but they will work for other Calico solutions as well. And then we have Prometheus and Grafana. Prometheus on the left, it scrapes metrics from applications. Grafana is used to visualize this metric in a way that we can understand it. So now, a lot of numbers here. What you need to remember is that it's the most adopted container networking interface, so networking solution, which also means that if you have a Kubernetes cluster, chances are you're using Calico, either as a CNI or so for networking or for enforcing policies or for both of them. Yes. Yeah, sorry about this slide. I need to keep marketing happy. What you need to remember, it works with different data planes, eBPF, Linux, Windows. We enhanced Kubernetes policies with the Calico security policies. It is scalable and fast. We will see today why it's scalable. And it provides encryption as well. Now, Prometheus and Grafana, I don't know if I need to explain what they are. So let's see, one hand for who knows one of the two hands for both of them. Yay, I don't need to explain this slide. So yeah, Prometheus, we scrape metrics. Grafana, we visualize them. You have some alerting on both systems and so forth. Now, before we go ahead, let's talk about the main differences between observability and monitoring, right? So on the left, what we have is an example of observability. So you basically see some traffic, you get some logs, and on the right, we have the monitoring, and we will explain in more details this now. So in the perfect world, you will have several teams looking at observability for different reasons. So just to get the job done. So if someone needs to deploy a new application, they want to see how this application is interacting with other applications in the cluster. Or maybe there is an issue, they need to troubleshoot and see why the application is not working. While on the right, you have the monitoring, and the monitoring is to see the status and the health status of your system. So you want to know if the system is actually healthy, right? So in perfect world, there are different teams, but in reality, most of the time there is one team, and in one team there is one person who does everything, right? So what we know, what we want to show is, I see some nervous nodding there. Are you one of these persons? So we want to show here what are the critical components that you want to monitor if you have Calico on your production clusters. Now, these are the 2 main components of Calico. These are the 2 folks that you want to monitor. It's Taifa and Felix. Taifa is the reason why Calico is scalable. Basically, it sits in between the Kubernetes API server and your node, more specifically Calico node pods, and is a caching data store proxy. Basically, what it does, it gets the information from the API server, and they will fan them out to all your nodes. Why this is scalable? Because if you don't have Taifa and you have, for example, 1,000 nodes, you will have 1,000 connection between your nodes and the Kubernetes API server, which means your Kubernetes API server is going to have troubles. So you put Taifa in between, and Taifa, depends on your cluster, can handle up to 100 clients, so 100 Calico nodes. So which means instead of having 1,000 connection between the API server and your nodes, you have just 10. Now, Because these metrics tend to be pretty boring, I decided to do something different. So I will have a lab. I will show you some metrics. Then halfway through, we go to the lab. We mess around with the lab just to see how this will change the values in the metrics. And the lab is very simple. I have a bastion that I use to connect to a Kubernetes cluster. Kubernetes cluster, there are 2 working nodes. And then I have Prometheus Grafana for metrics, and then Grafana sending some alerts to Slack via webhooks. And this is an example of dashboard. I believe you've seen thousands of them today. Probably yesterday and 2 days ago as well. So top metrics. Now, before I started, if you download the presentation, you will see all the details about each metric. So you will see the name of the metric, you will see the query that you need to run, some threshold recommendations, and why you need to monitor them. So I'll go very quickly through all of them. CPU memory usage, I believe I don't need to explain what they are. So you want to monitor them for Calico components as well. And then for Taifa, we have 2 metrics for breadcrumbs. I will explain what they are. And two metrics for the client. Now, the main client of Taifa is Felix. The job of Felix is to get the information from Taifa and elaborate that and prepare it to send to the nodes, and specifically to the data plane. So whatever as a policy or network security policies you enforce in the data store needs to go to the data plane. Felix is the folk in charge of applying these changes to the data plane. Now, breadcrumbs. So breadcrumbs are blocks of information. So there are several updates happening on your cluster. Taifa needs to get this information, and they'll wrap it up in some blocks. We call these blocks breadcrumbs. They can have a maximum size. The default size is 100. If the information is too much, Taifa will spread this information among several breadcrumbs, which also means you have 2 types of breadcrumbs, non-blocking and blocking. The easiest way to see it, to look at it, is imagine a chain. You have links in a chain. All the links are non-blocking breadcrumbs. The last link will be the blocking. Why we have this differentiation is just a way for Taifa to tell Felix, this is the end of the information. If you can read that, we are up to date. We don't need to exchange more information. We just wait for the data store to give us more information later. So we want to monitor them because if you see breadcrumb size always at the top, so we will see this in Grafana later. If they're always 100, that means that Taifa is overloaded, which also means your data store is overloaded. There are a lot of changes happening on your cluster. So probably there is a faulty application and there is a lot of churning on your pods. While for non-blocking breadcrumb fraction, what you're basically monitoring is how many non-blocking breadcrumbs Felix is reading compared to overall number of breadcrumbs. So what happens is, if Felix is overloaded or if there is some resource contention in the node, Felix will not be able to be updated with all the information coming from Taifa. So it will skip completely the blocking breadcrumb. It will go straight to the non-blocking breadcrumb. So it will go straight to read the new information. And this metric will tell you that this is happening. If this happens from time to time, it's fine. However, if this keeps happening, that means that Felix is just not able to get the information on time. So you may want to look at what happened in the node. Or maybe there is a configuration issue. You need to assign more CPU to these components. Client fall behind is telling Taifa is reporting that Felix is taking too long to be updated. Client ping latency, Taifa will send some Taifa protocol ping to Felix and will monitor to see how long it will take for Felix to reply to these messages. So again, it's a way to see what happened to these components. Now, so let's have a look at the first dashboard. So I created a few dashboards for you, and you'll be able to download these dashboards as well. This is specifically for Taifa. What we are seeing here is, of course, CPU usage and memory usage, then the two metrics for breadcrumbs, and the two metrics for the client. Nothing to report now. Just to mess things up a little bit, what I will do, I will restart Taifa. And I will do it again. So now if we go back here, we will start to see the breadcrumb size increasing and some overall activity in the cluster. So now, see this is the value in the breadcrumb size is skyrocketing. This because there is a new Taifa pod. A new Taifa pod doesn't have anything stored. What it will need to do is to get information from the data store. However, it's not pushing anything to the cluster because Felix didn't change. Felix is on a different pod. So, but Taifa needs to get updated. So he's getting all the information to the data store. It's a lot of information to process. And this is skyrocketing. So this is normal. And you want to monitor this and considering this when you're spinning up a new node, or maybe there is a restart. And again, if you see this from time to time, it's totally fine. But if it's constantly happening, you want to have a look at your cluster in more details. Any questions about Taifa metrics or Taifa and Felix in general? Do you monitor these components already in your clusters? Okay, I get it as a no. So now Felix. Felix active Calico nodes. This metric tells you how many Calico node pods are in your cluster. In a perfectly working cluster, you will have the same amount of nodes with the same amount of active Calico nodes because you need that to enforce policies and also to have networking on your cluster if Calico is the CNI. So if you see that this number is lower than the number of nodes in your cluster, that means there is a problem on the node. And you're going to have either networking issue or traffic issue on the node. Resync started. This is basically Taifa telling Felix that he's resyncing with the data store. Some resync from time to time, they're fine. However, if you see this value, this resync happening often, there is a problem in the communication between Taifa and the data store, which means you need to look at the networking between Taifa and the Kubernetes API server. Error plot. This is an agglomeration of errors. And what we are looking here is everything related to Felix and the the data plane. So it will tell you if there are some problems. So Felix cannot enforce some policies to the node because maybe there is an issue with IP tables or IP set, or maybe Felix doesn't have enough buffer to save some logs, so to report and to save its activity. So depends then on the error. You may want to see in more details what's happening. And then finally, we have two more metrics here for Felix, graph update time, data plane apply time. Again, you don't need to remember all of this. It's a lot of information. So as Rogli suggests, if you use Calico to download the presentation and see each slide for each metric. But anyway, what graph update time does, it will tell you how long it will take for Felix to grab this information from Taifa, wrap it up in a way that then is ready to send to the node. Then data plane apply time is the time that it will take for Felix to apply this changing to the data plane. So if one of these is, you see they are increasing, and we will see in a while, that means there is a problem in Felix. Now, let's mess it up with the cluster again. So what I will do, so here at the bottom, I don't know if you can see this, there is a number. This is just telling you how many pods are in the test deploy deployment. What I will do, I will scale this deployment up and down very quickly. And this will stress Taifa and Felix for a while. And to see some changes in the metrics, I had to assign very low CPU to both of them, so Felix and Taifa. Otherwise, that was impossible to basically stress them. So I'm just launching a simple script to scale the deployment up and down. You can see pods churning. Now we go back here and we look at the Felix metrics. This is the active Calico nodes that I was talking about. And here we see that the apply time is going up. And also the error plot is reporting something. So again, if you see these metrics on their own, they might not make that much sense. But you want to look at these metrics overall with other metrics at the same time. And they will tell you something. So if we see the other dashboard that I prepared, so we have the Felix metrics, the Taifa metrics, and here at the very top, I have this one here. So nodes without active Calico nodes. What it's doing is doing what I said before. So it's comparing the number of nodes with the number of active Calico node pods. And red equals bad. That means the one node that is having troubles. And it's having troubles because I'm just creating too many pods. And the my Kubernetes cluster cannot keep up. And Felix, which has very low CPU, cannot keep up as well. So this is pretty much it about metrics. So this is another slide where I just listed them with the actual query that you can run to see them in action. And if you use this QR code, you'll be able to download the presentation. You'll be able to download also the dashboards and details about these metrics. So I strongly suggest you to at least have a look at these dashboards if you have Calico and if you're using Prometheus and Grafana, because they will tell you the state and the health of your system. Any questions? All right, take this as a no. And yeah, this is a different QR code. It's a feedback. So I would appreciate your feedback either on the presentation or how I presented it, or Calico if you have any feedback to provide. Thank you very much.